All right, you guys, welcome back to the Rideshare Hub. I'm Jacob Letman. First of all, before we get started with this video, I hope that you and yours, your family, your loved ones are all staying safe and sound and healthy and happy through all of this. And hopefully you have some money in your accounts. If not, we're working on bringing you all the information that you need in order to file for unemployment, insurance benefits, and trying to get you all the resources that we can get you to help you economically through all of this. We're trying to take care of the rideshare community. That's what we're here for. So jump down in the comment section below if you have any questions, comments, anything like that. Let's be a community, pull together for each other. All right, on that note, something that I am passionate about in general is just things being just and fair. It's just part of my nature, who I am. Like, if we're all going on a road trip together, if I've got some friends, let's all split up the expenses evenly. Let's just make it fair, right? So that's something that's very important to me. And through this whole, everything that's going on with the sickness spreading across the world, across the United States, it's changed a lot of things. And we know part of that was the $2 trillion stimulus package that was passed by Congress into law, and part of that was, we know the stimulus checks, right, coming out to Americans, $1,200, so that's great, that's going to help us. But something we've been talking about on this channel a lot has been the expansion of unemployment insurance benefits, which are going to cover self-employed personnel, gig workers, rideshare drivers, Uber and Lyft, which is great. It is great. Congratulations to the United States federal government for proactively doing something that affects so many of us directly by putting money into our pockets in a time where we are struggling to work. And but there are a lot of things that go unsaid or have gone unsaid so far with that. And so I want to take this opportunity with all this going on to use this video as a little educational time to talk about the bigger picture with rideshare driving, and something that we can talk about and look at, and I'm sure will be looked at more under a microscope as things progress and as we come out on the other side of all of this and get closer back to a new normal. I think this is going to change a lot of things. And so what has not been talked about in depth by anyone really, I've said it a few times on the channel. I found this blog that I'm going to share with you guys, this article, is the fact that the federal government, which derives its money from taxpayers, the government doesn't do anything to make money. Taxes pay the federal government, right? So we pay the federal government money. And provided that they had money. I mean, we're in a deficit, right? We're in a huge deficit, but just saying taxpayers fund the government. Government pays for different services, one of which is unemployment insurance benefits. The stimulus checks that we're getting, that's all taxpayer funded, essentially, coming from you and me and everybody that we know. We all pay into that. So, how does unemployment insurance benefits work? Well, they work by businesses that have employees, W-2 employees. They pay into unemployment insurance benefits. So depending on, I don't know how much they pay. It depends on how many employees they have, whatever it may be. But like you pay into Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, all of those things, your employer pays into, or employers pay into, the unemployment insurance benefit program. That way, if they have to lay people off, those employees that were laid off can go to that program and can get the assistance that they need to continue paying their bills for a period of time until they can get back on their feet again. And so that is how that whole process works. And so it's a state-funded program, right? It's state by state. Each state has their own program with different protocols. So that's a general overview of how this works. Now, this is what has happened with this whole debacle, essentially, right? So people started getting sick, and there were recommendations that people should stay home, self-isolate, self-quarantine. And then we saw these ride-share demands just start to plummet. And Uber and Lyft, they came out, and I believe it's more of a publicity stunt or PR to look good. They said, we're going to step up and we're going to take care of our drivers. And so they came up with the 14-day sick leave pay. Now, to qualify for that, at first, to qualify, you had to have been diagnosed and have been ordered to stay home and quarantine, and then you had to provide that information to Uber and Lyft, and they had to sign off on it, and then you got sick pay. Then they kind of adapted it and said, if you have a doctor's note that says that you should self-quarantine, you're at high risk of getting sick if you drive, they accepted those too. Not in all cases. I read some articles, there were drivers that had problems receiving those payments, and those payments were they were a fraction of what drivers normally make driving. So payment for 14 days at a fraction of what drivers normally make, and you had to have doctor documentation stating that you couldn't drive, you needed to self-isolate, and you were deactivated as soon as you submitted those forms to Uber or Lyft. So all of that was their way of helping drivers, essentially. We're going to create this sick pay program, which, to their credit, was something, but I would say a small drop in the bucket, and I am curious how many drivers actually were able to benefit from that. So, that's what they did for drivers. Now, and I'm curious because I would like to know what percentage of drivers actually were able to get that sick pay. So let's just say, I'm just going to guess. I'm pulling this out of a hat. I have nothing to back it up. Let's just say 25% of all drivers for Uber and Lyft were able, in the United States, right? That's not even their drivers worldwide. This is just in the United States, were able to cash in on that. So we're talking about small money. And why is that small money? Uber and Lyft, drivers aren't employees, and so that means they don't pay health care, they don't pay Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and they don't pay into the unemployment insurance benefits program. So, basically, what happened was the federal government, aka us, the taxpayers, bailed out self-employed workers, gig workers, rideshare drivers. That's who really bailed out all of us. So Uber and Lyft got bailed out big time in a huge way from this stimulus bill. And why is that a big deal? Well, in California, before all of this happened, right, this did go into law January 2020, Bill AB 5 or AB 15? AB 5. Dang. Sorry, I can't remember. I should have it written down. I should have it in my memory. But anyway, in California, they passed that bill into law, which is supposed to make it more difficult for gig economy companies like Uber and Lyft to qualify their drivers or their workers as independent contractors, making it so they would have to qualify them as employees and pay them benefits, paid time off, sick leave, health insurance, all of that stuff, right? So we didn't know if that was a solution or not, but I wanted to bring this up because I wanted you all to understand how important it is that this is why things are going to change. The whole gig economy is cashing in on a gray area. That gray area, typically, there's not, before businesses like Uber and Lyft and gig economy jobs, there were not this many 1099 workers, independent contract workers working for anywhere at a given time like this. They took that to their advantage and said, oh, look, we don't have to pay them as employees. They can, we'll present this as you have freedom to work whenever you want, and yeah, you don't have to ask for any time off. You're not an employee, so you can make your own schedule and make money like that. And so there are some benefits from that, right? However, also if you look at 1099 employees, traditionally, they make far more money than, well, I won't say far more. They make more money than employees typically do, right? If you're 1099, and that is because 1099 workers, independent contractors, need to pay for their own health insurance, have to pay for their own expenses, like our vehicle. We pay our more taxes, right? Because nothing's taken out federally from the state for Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. We have to pay all of that after the fact. So traditionally, 1099 workers make a higher mark when they work jobs. And that's how it should be. Uber and Lyft, you're not making more than, I mean, at best, let's just say at very best, on average, someone's making $20 an hour. Now, I know in New York they changed that. Anyway, that aside, let's just talk generally nationwide. At best, you're making $20 an hour. That is not enough to cover all of the expenses and really have, be able to have a healthy lifestyle and live comfortably off of with all of the expenses that we incur as drivers. So anyway, I just wanted to paint this big picture so we could talk about this. And I guarantee you, I know the federal government, they're not, well, they're politicians, so I shouldn't say they're not stupid. But they know that they totally just bailed out all the gig workers. The gig economy just got bailed out by the taxpayers and the federal government, basically, by expanding unemployment insurance benefits to be open to self-employed people. So anyway, that's kind of my rant on this. Again, just wanted to paint a big picture to help people to think about this and see everything that's going on. But Uber and Lyft really not doing what's best for their drivers. So if you guys have any thoughts, feedback, comments on this, I'd love to know. Your thoughts on this. And my final thought on this is, you will hear people say that, well, Uber and Lyft, they haven't even turned a profit yet. No, they haven't. But that is because that is their business choices. They don't have to pay into the things that they pay into. Their marketing bill that they pay, they don't have to pay that. All the employees that they have, they don't have to have all of that. So they're operating at a deficit on purpose. They know what they're doing, trying to expand that business. But they're doing it at the expense of you and me, because it is still an inviting prospect to be able to have this part-time job where you can go and make money with your car, and you don't have to be overly qualified, and you can cash out your money anytime. But they're taking advantage of drivers, and that is my personal take on it. And they just got bailed out to the tune of billions of dollars by the federal government in the United States during all of this. So that's what I got for you guys. Food for thought. That's what I'm here for. I'm Jacob Lettman. This is the Rideshare Hub. Until next time, everybody, drive safe out there.